Ephesians 1 verse 5 says this, He predestined us. Everyone say predestined. For the adoption to sonship with Jesus Christ, in order with His pleasure and His will. So when God looks at us, He's already predestined us as sons because of His pleasure. So He gets excited about this and His will. In Romans 15 verse 7, it says, accept one another. Everyone say, accept one another. Just as Christ accepted you in order to bring praise to God. So how many of you know that when you accept the person on your left and the person on your right, that brings praise to God? And when you reject the person on your left and on your right, for whatever reason, it takes away from the praise we give to Him. A week ago, I was on a plane. Things happen to me on planes, guys. I don't know why. But I was on a plane and just getting ready. It was an early morning flight, 7 o'clock. You know, you wake up at 5 a.m., get on the plane. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, you know the hostesses that are serving you breakfast? They've served half the plane breakfast, and they all of a sudden have big eyes, and they start kind of like moving a little bit weirdly, and they start smelling like their noses are going like flaring. And all of a sudden I hear this muffle, and the captain gets on the line and says, guys, we have a fire on the plane. And so and you know when the captain sounds a bit stressed out, like you start seeing people, man, like you start seeing the real sides of people. People are like, what is going on here? He says, we are experiencing a fire on the plane. You can smell the smell. Please listen to the hostesses. Do exactly what they tell you, but please keep calm. You might die, right? But just stay chilled. And so all of a sudden, guys who've just been handed their meals, the hostesses start going crazy. And they grab the meals that they've just handed people and they throw them into the trash. So like guys in the middle of eating a sausage, boom, grabs a sausage, throws it in the trash. You know, guys they're ready to have their meal. They are running up and down the aisles. Like you shouldn't run. They are running up and down the aisles. Things are going crazy. There's kind of like flashing lights, and they're saying, hey, make sure you buckle up. Make sure you prepare. We might have an emergency landing. Now, it's amazing to watch people in this situation because everyone acts sort of different. And the one guy brings out his book, and he just starts reading his book, like as if everything's super chilled. You know, another person has her daughter next to her and is finding like consolation in her daughter. Like the daughter's fine, but she's not. She's like trying to make her daughter panic, like it's gonna be okay. And the daughter's like, I'm cool. Other people are starting to pray, right? I think one person recognized me from church and saw that I was a pastor, so was really taking her cues from me, like, what's going on with the pastor there? You know? And how many of you know that when things get chaotic, you start seeing the real side of people and maybe where they're anchored? And in Zimbabwe, we've had a season of chaos, and sometimes we feel like we're on that plane where you read the newspapers and you're like, yo, that's a red light. You smell the smoke of real buildings, and then rumors, and you're like, and people saying, buckle up, we may have an emergency landing, like we could crumble. And you start seeing the real sides of people. And here's what starts to happen when we get into these chaotic situations. Very often we get really self-centered and really self-preserving. And I'm looking around and I'm like, man, God, I might die with these people. And I don't even like them. Like, I don't even know who these guys are. And you're looking at the faces, and I started thinking to myself, like, God, things started going in my mind. And how many of you have ever had, just in this season, like crazy thought life? Where you're just like, man, am I supposed to be here? Like, what's going on? How come this is happening? Can they do this again one more time? Like, is my family going to be okay? You start going through all these things, and I went through this kind of series of thoughts. The first thought was, man, like, I'm not going to be able to have that lunch I was hoping for if this thing goes down. I had a lunch plan. And then I went, man, but if this plane goes down, I may not get to see my kids again. And if this plane goes down, like, man, I'm going to miss so many people at church. If this plane goes down, I'm actually getting a little bit worried because this plane might go down. And the captain comes on again and says, guys, please prepare for an emergency landing. And you're like, dude, that's twice the captain. He's supposed to be the chilled guy. And then I started going, man, did I tell my wife that I loved her? Did I do that before I left? Does my mom and dad know that like I really believe in what they're doing? Do the friends that I would leave behind know that I see the king in them and that I would fight for them no matter what? And then I was like, God was like, hey, I got you. Like, I got you. And then I started thinking about, well, this could be fun just to go to heaven early. Like, I'm kind of excited. I mean, I've been studying heaven, and so then I started getting excited, like heaven, this could be great, and there won't be any sorrow, so I won't have any of these regrets. But how many of you know that in the chaos, in the confusion, He promises peace? And when it's crazy, He promises belonging. And so often we can get distracted by everything going on, and we start thinking just about us, and we stop looking at maybe what God's trying to do with the person next to us. We stop looking at the collective body. And so the title of my message today, and when you're in those situations, you start thinking of who do you bond with? Who would you want to send messages to if it was your last few moments? And the title of my message today is Gang Like Church. Everyone say it's okay. It's going to be all right. We're going to go here real quick. And just declare over you guys, there's a peace that's beyond our understanding. If you've had mind battles, if you've had anxiety battles, which a lot of people have that I've spoken to, I just want to declare to you that there is peace when you feel like fear is taking hold. There is peace where you feel like you're losing control, and it's that promise where Jesus says it's a peace that you won't find from looking around you. And I'm like, okay, well, then God, if there's a peace in the church, should we be exploding in this season? And have you ever kind of wondered if you belong? And again, in this situation, when you're looking on the plane and things are chaotic, no one goes, I belong in this situation. Like, this is where I belong, in chaos. Where the pilot's scared, where people are taking sausages out of people's hands and throwing them in the bins. This is where I belong. No one goes, this is where I belong, when the economy is having tough times, when we feel like we're being lied to, when we're feeling like we used to be okay and now we're really trying to make ends meet. You're like, God, what happened to the strength to strength, glory to glory? Like, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing strength to weakness. I'm seeing glory to something else. No one goes, I belong here. This is where I belong. But there's a different kingdom, which is, it's the church, where no matter what happens, there's a promise of belonging. If we see each other right, and if we look at it correctly. So just tell your neighbor, say you belong here. Here's something to consider. Knowing you belong is more powerful than chaos. Knowing you belong is more powerful than chaos. And everyone knows Mother Teresa. She went all over the world helping communities who were destroyed, helping communities that were trying to figure out who they were, helping communities that felt sick and deprived. And she said this, she said, the greatest disease in the West today is not TB or leprosy. It is being unwanted, unloved, and uncared for. She says, we can cure physical disease with medicine, but the only cure for loneliness, despair, and hopelessness is love or belonging. There's a hunger for love as there is a hunger for God. This is what she said. So she says the biggest sickness that we see on earth is a sense of being unwanted or a sense of loneliness. The Independent magazine in the UK published something based on authorities and studies that many sicknesses are coming from the core of being lonely and then neglecting yourself, which opens you up for sickness and disease. So they're saying that many sicknesses now are coming from this place of loneliness where guys neglect who they are because they don't feel like they belong in society. We know social media has connected us more than ever, but it's also made us feel like those connections are less deep, which means we don't really feel like we belong. And then it's kind of high maintenance because we need to keep on knowing that we're okay. Have you ever felt like that? Like you're in a group and you're like, hey, you still like my picture? Like you still like my profile? Like am I still cool? Are we still cool? The number one cause of depression, again, according to psychology today, is the feeling of not belonging. We live in a world where we don't belong. I heard someone the other day saying, Tommy, in my school, I'm really concerned about my high school because people are finding this belonging in a group of girls that are cutting themselves. And it's actually becoming kind of a cool thing to do because we've connected on our depression. Because we don't find belonging anywhere else. And in the school they have chapels, they have things that happen according to church, but they're not belonging there. So they're finding this place where they belong, which is in this depression, and that's where they're finding their community. That's where they're finding their gang. Because you've always wondered, like, how do people join gangs? Like, they violate morals, they violate ethics, they violate everything. But it's because when they identify with someone and they feel like they belong, belonging is more important than chaos. Because people are looking if they belong. Have you ever felt like you're in a conversation where you don't belong? And you try and act like you know what's going on. And then you quickly exit yourself out. Like for me, it would be farming, right? So, can I get a witness? Anyone here? Right? So if someone's talking about farming and stuff and someone would say to me, which is your favorite pesticide? I'd be like, dude, I have no idea. I don't even know if I believe in pesticides. If someone said, hey, do you till the land or see, I'm already selling myself out right now. But for me, it's the English Premier League. I actually, and I'm going to be honest here, I actually don't really know too much about the English Premier League. So if I join a conversation about soccer, here's how it goes. Hey, so Tom, what's your favorite team? Pastor Tommy, what's your favorite team? The red team. Is that Manchester? Yeah? Cool. All right. There we go. Hey, that's just red. That's all. And then people are like, okay, cool. So what's who's your favorite player on the team? And is Beckham still around? And you quickly find yourself not belonging in that conversation. So you remove yourself from that or you change the subject. How many people are walking into church feeling like they don't belong? This is the doors of the church. They walk through and everyone's looking pretty smart, eh? Maybe they just came from the club, just a quick commute, right from there, here. And they're looking through and they're going, do I belong? And they walk through and I don't know. I kind of I'm interested in Jesus. Because it seems to be a really amazing story and powerful. I felt his presence once when I was 11. But I'm looking if I belong here. And you come inside and you look and someone looks at you and says, sorry, sir, you can't sit here. That's my seat? Okay, all right, cool. I don't know there were seats in church. Movies I know, you E3. But in church, I didn't get a stub. And someone says, hey, do you know your pants might be a bit too tight, sir? Oh, really? Sweet. I didn't, okay. I guess I'll remember that for next time. Can I wear shorts? Absolutely not. Oh, all right. Okay, cool. So let's sit next to someone. So you're new today? Yeah, man. Just came from the club. Is that right, huh? What's your favorite Bible chapter? Proverbs 32. You don't read your Bible, do you? You have no idea where Proverbs begins and ends. And I'm being a little bit eccentric, but when people are looking for belonging, sometimes they won't care too much if they understand everything. But if they feel like they belong, they come back. I was in college, and I got invited to be part of a secret society. Yeah. My mom was like crazed out. And I got this letter in the mail, and it was addressed to Tommy Deuschle. Handwritten, gold sealed, wax stamped. And I received this, and I was like, man. And this, when you're in college, you're kind of at an awkward age. You're trying to like figure out if you're valuable to people, if they're valuable to you. And you know what I mean. You're just kind of figuring this out. And you go, man, this could be a girl, right? So, because no one, who sends these kind of, so I open up this letter and it says, Dear Tommy Deuschle, we've been watching you. Is that right, huh? We see tremendous potential in who you are, what you've done, where you've come from, and we want you to join our group. And you'll never lack for money, and I'm reading this, I'm like, finally, someone's noticed. Like, this is cool. Like, in church, people don't speak to me like this. Some of my friends, we've noticed. And I put the letter aside, and I was like, I know that's a joke, right? Like, I don't know what that is. But then I looked back at it, and I was like, but they noticed. Like, I don't agree with what these people probably do, but I'm going to write back. So I wrote back, because they said, if you're interested, write back. So I wrote back. I didn't do a sealed letter or anything. I just wrote back. I said, I'm interested. Sent it off. Even though I knew I probably wouldn't describe to kind of what they're doing. I sent it off. 2 weeks later, I get a letter back. And they say, fantastic. We're ready to welcome you into the group, into the gang. We see the potential in you. However, we'd like you to pay $39.99 per month, and we will send you some of the resources. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm done. But how many of you know that when people come through the doors of the church, when people come into the doors of our lives, they go, and do I belong? And do we write letters to people like that to say, we see the potential in you, and we've noticed you. And I don't care how you smell. I don't care how you look. I don't care where you've been last night. You have a place here because you're supposed to belong. So turn to your neighbor and say, I belong beside you, boy or girl. I belong beside you. It sounds like a song. I belong beside you, baby. Come on, come on. You see, we face obstructions. Let's go to Matthew 5. Let's dive into some scripture so that people don't just say I told stories. Matthew 5. Let's go there real quick. And here's the thing. What kind of stops us from creating more of a sense of belonging where people come in and say, I don't know, I don't understand everything that Pastor Taz says because I don't sometimes. I don't understand everything Pastor Tom says because I don't sometimes. But I do feel like I belong, and I'm going to work through some of these things I don't get because I belong here. And I'm going to work through maybe some of the things that I'm like, I don't get that. But I belong. Tell your neighbor, I belong, baby. Just sing it. All right, so here it goes. Verse 21, Matthew 5:21. Check this out. We'll go quick. Have you heard the ancients were told? The ancients were told, you shall not commit murder, and whoever commits murder shall be liable to court. But I say to you, there's a higher standard. Everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty before the court. Man, I'm angry with some people. I'm guilty before the court. But I say to you, everyone, so it says, you good for nothing shall be guilty. Anyone who says you good for nothing shall be guilty of the Supreme Court, and whoever says you fool shall be guilty enough to go into fiery hell. Therefore, if you are presenting your offering at the altar, and remember that your brother has something against you, leave your offering there before the altar, go, First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and present your offering. Right? If you're bringing something, and how many of us bring something to Jesus? Our tithe, our gifting. Yeah, I'm gonna take the offering buckets here. Can I have a volunteer to be Jesus just on stage? Real quick. Pastor Taz, can you be Jesus for me? How many of us are walking to the altar? Pastor Vic, would you please come up here as well? Pastor Vic. So if Pastor Taz is Jesus, and we are so, just right there, Pastor Vic, right in front of me there. And we're so concerned about giving what we need to give to Jesus, right? And we come and we grab all sorts of things. I'm trying to find more things here. We've got our tithe, our offering, our calling, and our gift. And we're saying, Lord, look what I'm bringing to you. And on our way, we've got so much stuff. We're bumping people. Get out. Do you even know what I am giving to the Lord here? You please get out of my way, sir. Oh, you have aught against me. Well, I have nothing against you, so you better deal with it. Here we go, Lord. Here's all the things here's my time, my all-night prayer meetings. Here's everything that I sorted out. Here's my bigger offerings. But Lord, do you even know I sacrificed time at golf for prayer? And Jesus is saying, before you give me and I accept this, there's a step that needs to be there in order for your gift to speak for you. In order for there to be a big acceptance into the kingdom, and we say, well, that guy's got an issue with me. I don't have an issue with him. It's his deal. If he wants to sort it out, he can come to me. And Jesus is saying, if you know someone has aught against you, I'm not so concerned with what you're giving me. And how often do we sit in church and we look at each other and we're like, that oak, bro, I would not trust him with my cupcake, let alone my kids. And we're saying, and we say, we know he's got an issue with me, but you know what? I'm above that. I'm just going to kind of just do my thing. I'm at a higher level. He's got to deal with it. But Jesus goes the extra mile and says, if you know someone has aught against you, go to them first. We're part of a gang. You belong here. I get you. Let's work out the misunderstanding. I'm sorry for bumping you with my gifts on the way to the altar. Bless you, sir. You come back. You give these gifts. They're accepted. They work for you. So where is it where we're bringing gifts and we're bringing sacrifice and we're bringing time where Jesus is saying, there's someone there. If there's a breach there, we're not going to be as strong. If there's a person in the gang who doesn't kind of connect, we're gonna be defragmented, because even Jesus said, a house divided against itself cannot, not even it'll be weak. It just will be destroyed. And we won't have the power. So many of us are crying out for more power. God, we want to see your power. We're trying to give bigger gifts. We want to, and Jesus is like, hey, there's someone who has aught against you. Let's deal with that. Give Pastor Taz and Pastor Vic a hand.